What's unfolding around Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao right now is turning into one of the most confusing and talked about boxing situations in years. On one side, you've got a blockbuster rematch that fans have been waiting for, tied to massive streaming deals and global attention. On the other side, you've got legal warnings, contract disputes, and a growing cloud of uncertainty that is now making people question whether this fight is actually going to happen at all. It all started with strong expectations that Floyd Mayweather and Manny Pacquiao would step back into the ring for a high-profile rematch backed by huge commercial interest, including Netflix involvement. But that excitement quickly shifted when Floyd publicly suggested the fight wasn't actually locked in as a professional bout, but more of an exhibition-style event. That single shift in wording created tension almost immediately because it directly contradicted what others involved in the deal were claiming had already been signed. What makes this even more intense is how different both sides are now describing the same situation. Floyd's position, as he has repeated in interviews, leans toward the idea of entertainment exhibitions, staying active, and putting on shows rather than committing to a fully sanctioned professional fight. He's talked about staying in shape, enjoying the process, and doing exhibitions as part of his lifestyle, especially since he's still training regularly and spending time with his family. But the other side of this story is far more serious. Manny Pacquiao's promotional team has pushed back strongly, insisting that this was never meant to be an exhibition in the first place. According to those involved in negotiations, multiple signed agreements already exist that clearly define this as a professional fight. And that's where things start getting legally complicated, because once contracts are signed, changing the format isn't something that can just be casually adjusted. Manny Pacquiao himself has been very firm about one thing: he is not interested in an exhibition. He wants a real fight with proper judging, official rules, and a result that counts on both fighters' records. That stance alone has created a major clash with Floyd's public statements, and it's one of the key reasons why uncertainty around the rematch has grown so quickly. Behind the scenes, things have escalated even further. The CEO of Manny Pacquiao's promotional side has warned that if agreements are breached, the situation could move into serious legal territory. Reports suggest that the contracts involved are not simple one-page deals either, but multiple signed documents tied to different parties and dates. In other words, this isn't something that can be easily walked back without consequences. There are even claims that the financial stakes could be enormous, with potential penalties reaching into very high figures if the agreements are broken. That's why the situation has now expanded beyond just boxing talk and entered the world of legal and business disputes, especially with streaming platforms reportedly involved in the deal structure. One of the biggest talking points is the involvement of major streaming interest, including Netflix. The idea of a Mayweather vs. Pacquiao rematch being broadcast globally through a platform like that is exactly the kind of event that attracts massive attention and revenue. But instead of building momentum, the disagreement over whether this is a professional fight or an exhibition has started to slow everything down. At the same time, Floyd Mayweather's camp has been explaining their perspective differently. Floyd has pointed out that he has stayed active through exhibitions and that he sees these events as entertainment rather than traditional competition. He's also mentioned multiple exhibition plans, including other high-profile appearances, which adds even more confusion to his 2026 schedule. But critics and analysts are not convinced that this is just about entertainment. Some voices in boxing media have gone further, suggesting that Floyd Mayweather may be dealing with financial pressure, pointing to his involvement in multiple overlapping fight discussions. These claims suggest that taking on several events at once could be linked to money management challenges, although none of this has been officially confirmed by Floyd himself. What is clear, however, is that his schedule appears unusually packed and complicated. Alongside the Pacquiao Pacquiao situation, there have also been mentions of potential exhibitions involving other major names, including Mike Tyson. That alone has created even more speculation because different events, different formats, and different agreements are now all overlapping in a way that makes the entire 2026 fight calendar look uncertain. The proposed Floyd Mayweather versus Mike Tyson exhibition has also been floating around as a major spectacle event, but even that fight has faced delays and lack of confirmation. Some reports suggested locations like major international venues, but nothing has been officially finalized. As a result, fans are left with announcements that come and go without solid confirmation, which only adds to the confusion. Meanwhile, the Pacquiao side continues to insist that the rematch contract is still active and legally binding. Their argument is simple. Floyd signed agreements for a professional fight, not an exhibition, and therefore must honor the original terms. From their perspective, any attempt to reframe the fight as something less formal is not just misleading, but potentially a breach of contract. That disagreement has now turned into a central issue. If one side insists it's an exhibition and the other insists it's a professional bout, then the entire foundation of the event becomes unstable. And when you add legal teams, promoters, and streaming partners into the mix, the situation becomes even more complicated. Boxing analysts have also started debating what this fight would actually look like if it happens. Some believe Floyd would rely heavily on defensive movement, timing, and ring control, as he always has throughout his career. That style, often described as hit and not get hit boxing, is still considered one of the most effective approaches in the sport. Others argue that in a high-pressure rematch against Manny Pacquiao, that style could be interpreted differently depending on how active the exchanges are. Floyd Mayweather Sr. has defended his son's approach, explaining that what some people call running or avoidance is actually high-level boxing strategy. In his view, controlling distance, avoiding damage, and scoring clean shots without taking punishment is exactly how elite fighters win consistently. He strongly pushed back against the criticism that Floyd avoids engagement, framing it instead as intelligence and discipline in the ring. On the other hand, Manny Pacquiao's supporters continue to emphasize his legacy as an 8-division world champion and highlight his aggressive, high-output fighting style. That contrast in styles is one of the main reasons this rematch still generates so much interest, even years after their original meeting. Adding another layer to the debate, some commentators have raised questions about whether this rematch is truly about sport anymore, or more about business and entertainment value. With platforms like Netflix entering boxing promotions, the focus is increasingly shifting toward viewer numbers, global reach, and commercial success rather than purely sporting merit. That's where the controversy deepens. Critics argue that modern boxing events are increasingly being shaped by entertainment demand, where names matter more than rankings, and legacy fights are often designed to generate subscriptions and headlines rather than determine undisputed sporting superiority. At the same time, fans still care deeply about what happens inside the ring. Many want to see whether Floyd Mayweather's undefeated record can withstand the pressure of a real professional rematch, or whether Manny Pacquiao can finally adjust the narrative from their first fight. That tension is exactly what keeps this situation alive, even as negotiations struggle behind the scenes. Right now, the biggest issue isn't just the fight itself, but whether all parties are actually aligned on what kind of fight it is supposed to be. One side sees a controlled exhibition with entertainment value, while the other sees a fully competitive professional boxing match with real consequences. Until that gap is closed, uncertainty will continue to grow. What makes this even more complicated is that Floyd Mayweather's name is still attached to multiple upcoming events, which means scheduling conflicts are becoming more likely. With overlapping agreements, promotional obligations, and legal concerns, the risk of delays or cancellations is increasing. For now, the Mayweather vs. Pacquiao rematch remains technically alive, but far from stable. Legal warnings, conflicting public statements, and unclear event formats have all combined to create one of the most unpredictable boxing situations in recent memory. And as fans wait for clarity, the same question keeps coming back again and again. Is this going to be the long-awaited professional rematch the world expected, or is it slowly turning into something entirely different under the pressure of business, entertainment, and contract disputes?